Thanks for your patience. Please come. Do you want to come with me? Just getting everybody mic'd up.
If I may, I want to poll the room while we have a minute. Our speakers are getting mic'd up. One of the most kind of interesting and rewarding parts about putting this event together is discussing and oftentimes debating with our colleagues what topics to cover. And we try to really stay kind of ahead of trends. This year we introduced some new topics. Web3 is a new one. Crypto is always a big one for us. Trade, the way payments are facilitating Pan-African trade is a big one this year. So just curious, out of show of hands, if you had to choose between the trade panel and the crypto panel, because those are two very different types of sessions, how many people would be here for crypto? Wow. Trade? Yeah, that's a pretty decent split. Yeah, I'd say it's 50-50. Cool. Well, hopefully next year we'll be having a session on the intersection of trade and crypto, which I think is kind of the next version of that discussion. So great. Hopefully our speakers are mic'd up. I'll just ask for the next sessions. Before you come up, if you can enter, there's a green room here, and our folks will get you all mic'd up so you can be ready to hop on stage and when your session comes.
Please welcome Chinedu Enekwe and Tosin Eniolorunda. He is coming. Do you want to recite some poetry?
I could break the ice. Good morning, everyone. Glad that you came to join us. How familiar is everyone with offline and online fintech? Is everyone familiar? So we're in a mixed crowd. All right. So we'll dig in a little bit, and then we'll go from there.
Good morning, everyone. Apologies, it took a minute, but here we are.
Exactly. So, welcome.
Thank you.
So, where are you coming from? Let's start with the audience with that. Where are you coming from today?
I flew in from Lagos to, of course, here. I spent a bit of time in Lagos, then spent a bit of time also in London for my family, and spent a bit of time on the airplane, traveling, to some of the, different kind of goals that we have, international expansion, fundraising, and all.
Okay, so, just to give some people context, since about 2019, over the last 3 years, it's been about over $500 million invested in online and offline fintech, the merger of the two spaces.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about TeamApt and how you've emerged as a breakout company in that space?
Yeah. I think any fintech that's really serious about Africa needs to understand the condition and the present situation of Africa, and it means that if you want to do business of financial technology, providing financial technology services, which is done digitally, you need to also take seriously your distribution, which has to have a component of traditional/offline, and now bring people online, because that is how you can get ahead of the curve.
So explain that a little further. What do you mean?
All right, so basically, Nigeria, for example, has maybe 50-something% internet penetration, so people are coming online. However, the kind of trust that people have for online systems is not yet at the levels that you're gonna have in, say, Europe or in the US. For example, purchasing decisions in the US and in Europe are made by Google, by Googling, right? You Google, you see TripAdvisor, and you make decisions, right? But it's not the same in Nigeria, in Africa. People still rely more on word of mouth. This guy's using it, and they make a choice on that. I mean, it still happens also in the US. Word of mouth is still a big thing. However, there are lots of decisions being taken online. Now, it means that if you have any product that you want to sell in Nigeria, in Africa, you need to have this in mind, and you need to be able to cultivate being able to get people to use your product through references and through personal coaching. So the best way to bring digital solutions, whatever kind of digital solution in Africa, should have a component of it that understands that people are transitioning in the next couple of years, and you should have a very good component of it offline and word of mouth. So it's a hybrid model. You're digital, all your operations are digital, products are digital, has all the buzzwords, has all the AIs, has all the IoTs, name everything, crypto. But you want to sell it, you need an offline component.
So you guys started in 2015.
Yes.
And then in 2019, you had this market insight of the hybrid nature. Yeah. And now you're processing $6 billion worth of transactions.
Yeah.
That's a rapid growth trajectory.
Thank you.
Right? So what is sort of, when we talk about the offline component, how deep does it go? How big can you expand?
Nigeria is 59% of Nigeria's GDP is done by MSMEs. The other, the remaining GDP is done by blue chip companies. And it means that there's one small component in between that is like not MSMEs and not blue chip companies. It means that if you want to capture the bulk of the GDP, you need to have like a solution that solves their problems digitally, and like I also mentioned, can reach out to them. So this is the insights that we have had, and of course we kind of like also rode the strong tailwinds of the need for digitalization of payments offline. So Nigeria has aggressively transitioned from cash, people carrying cash around, now to being cash light. And people generally now have a need to, use their cards to buy goods and services or to withdraw cash. And we now transitioned into providing point of sale services for businesses that allow people to be able to use their cards instead of cash to either withdraw the cash, that's agency banking services, or to be able to use it at merchant locations. And like I mentioned, there's a strong tailwind driven by two major things. One is government regulation for cashless, and two, the environment itself. For security reasons and for convenience reasons, people don't want to carry cash. So between 2019 and now, we rode that wave to become the largest provider of card acceptance services offline in the country, providing card acceptance services to 200,000 plus businesses, and like you mentioned, processing $6 billion daily. And it is predicated on the strong tailwind of digitization and being able to distribute physically. So
what you're saying is that when people go to the open air markets, now you've created a system that speaks to the merchants so that those merchants will accept cards. How difficult was that? How are you training your sales team to make that value proposition?
Yeah, I think first of all, one of the best things that can happen to all fintechs, any enterprise, is timing. Right? I think it's very important. I mean, some of the best companies in the world were formed at the time where the world was ready for it. For example, in the early 60s, when transistors were just created, and there is basically lower density creating integrated circuits, that was the right time for computers to be formed. So I think the timing was right circa of 2019, because it was a perfect storm of government regulation pushing cashless, and people really did not want to carry cash because of security reasons, and that simply led to more digitization, like I mentioned. So all we needed to do was ride that wave, but now ride that wave with a solution that people would trust. One of the things that we figured out pretty quickly is that you need to have, Nigerians are not trusting, so nobody is going to, so you need to ensure that your solution can give people absolute trust. One of the biggest problems that the industry has are disputes, chargebacks. You could go to an ATM and you'll not get your cash. You could use a point of sale, you'll not get your services. So we invested in like a proactive way in which we're able to proactively refund customers faster than banks will do. We invested heavily in reliability, in ensuring reliability, because you have an environment where infrastructure, one of our providers, for example, fails every 15 minutes up till now. It's going to be a failure every 15 minutes. So the engineering that is required to build such reliability actually turns out not to be trivial. So these were some of the things that we built. So we had a fantastic solution that the industry simply loved, and the timing was right, and we found a very good way to distribute it to the hands of the people. And there we go. That's how we had our major traction starting from late 2019.
Okay, well, that kind of brings me to a natural next question, because it seems like you figured out Nigeria, right? And that's like the unwieldy beast that everyone wants to figure out. But now you're expanding. You're a unicorn now, you're expanding outside. How did you do the same assessment of the culture and which countries to expand to first? Can you walk us through that?
I mean, our strategy is pretty simple. We're looking for the best countries in Africa. So if you take...
That's kind of controversial now, okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If you take an economic map of the country or continent, take a look at the GDP, take a look at the opportunity, and find a combination of the best opportunities where there's the biggest need. It generally brings out some names.
Okay.
And the goal is in 3 to 5 years' time, MoneyPoint, TeamApt solution, will be the preferred financial service provider for businesses in these economies. We have parallels around the world. Our strong parallel will be Square, which is Block in the US here. You have other businesses like Adyen, or maybe I don't want to mention Stone in Brazil, right? Yeah, you know I don't want to. So those are some of the strong parallels. So these are things that have happened in many other regions of the world, in LATAM, in the US. And we are literally recreating the same thing because it's needed. Businesses need a complete platform that it will need to be able to accept payments, get access to credit, be able to manage their operations, and be able to do trade and financing. And that's our goal. We want to be able to take this complete platform, complete suite of solutions to all the different businesses in the largest economies of Africa that have the opportunities. And that's basically bringing out some names here, 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 and here.
Okay. So you don't want to call out the countries.
Yeah.
Okay. But, culture seems to be like a focal point of yours. So in terms of understanding the culture of your customers, now, one of the things that's been a hot topic in the African tech scene is company culture of late. And so I want to ask you a question around how are you, now that you've built such scale, how are you building company culture and governance to the point where, you're a unicorn, the next thing your investors are asking you is going public. So going public means opening up the kimono. You
Yeah.
have to have company culture that people actually can believe in. How are you dealing with that?
Excellent question. I think first of all, we have a culture that preaches a lot of openness. And I really think that it's actually, if you want to build a great organization, you need to have people empowered, loving what they do. And I have a framework for achieving that, and I call it the 4M framework. I don't know if I developed it myself or I read it somewhere, but I've been looking for where I read it. So it's a 4M framework, right? And it's basically the framework to motivation.
Okay.
If in case you've heard it anywhere else, just tell me that this is where I saw it. So it's a 4M framework, and is the path to motivation. So the first M is meaning. People are looking for meaning in what we do. Everybody needs to have a reason why they do what they do. And in people looking for meaning, they want to achieve mastery, which means they want to get better everything they are doing. And while they're achieving that mastery, they want to have membership, which is you are regarded, you are considered part of the team, and essentially, so you're having meaning in doing what you're doing, getting better at it, and the team is loving you. And the last M is money. Yeah, very important.
Okay.
So it turns out that if you build an organization where people find meaning, gets better. So meaning is, first of all, has to do with the mission of what the company is doing. People want impact. And get better at it. You need to create an environment where it is challenging and people kind of get better at it. And third, membership, where people are regarded and they are seen, their role in the team is seen, and you pay them well. Well, paying people well generally means they should forget about life worries. I think that generally checks it.
Yeah.
You create an environment where people are really motivated, and also an environment where the culture is open, and work gets done. So that's the kind of environments that we have created in TeamApt, in MoneyPoint and TeamApt, and we are proud of it.
That's great. So I know we probably have to wrap up, but before we go, I want to ask you some quick this or that questions, right?
Yeah.
So even though you don't want to say the country that you're expanding to, but let's see if we can approximate it. Wache or shish kebab?
Shish kebab.
Shish kebab, okay. Now this one, you have to pick your superhero and your supervillain.
Okay.
Elon Musk or Bezos? Which one is your superhero? Which one is your supervillain?
They're both super villains.
Okay. So then, what book are you reading and what lesson did you take from it?
Yeah, I think there's a book that struck me, The Myth of Innovation. I don't know, I can't remember who wrote it. I think it talks about, people think innovation is like this big-ass eureka moment that just comes to you, boom, like that. It turns out there's actually a path to being innovative, and we've practiced it so many times in the company that I've seen it over and over again. And it basically talks about how the human mind works and the subconscious works, where you feed your mind with a problem space and you allow it to percolate, and sometimes your subconscious will bring solutions to you. So it's that moment that will now allow you sometimes now jump out of the shower and say, Eureka, I got it. All right?
Okay.
So if we can all actually solve problems, and I think it happens to us many times. It's sometimes it's just that we don't practice it deliberately. Sometimes it's issues that force us to produce it. You just get into one problem space and you think about it for long, and you now get an answer. But it can be built in an organization that way, where you do proper deep analysis of problems, and sometimes you don't have to force an immediate solution, and you delegate it to your subconscious, and you come out being innovative.
Wow. Wow, so that's really great. How do you build innovation? Seems like we touched on culture, we touched on offline and online distribution. Is there anything else you want to leave us with?
Let's all find happiness.
All right, thank you, Tosin. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
We'll go from here.
Thank you, Tosin and Chinedu. Thank you so much. Our next fireside chat. So this company needs no introduction, and I'm kind of always jealous, you know, when you meet people in a networking event and you have to introduce yourself and you say the name of your company and you have to explain what you're doing. Some people